gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Discovery Group CEO, Adrian Gore.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Wow, what a great welcome, a great start. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you for being here with us. Today is a Discovery Day, but of course, as you know, we are starting out with the launch of Discovery Bank. I want to welcome our colleagues from the Reserve Bank. It's great to have you. I hope you've listened to everything you told us. We'll see in the presentation, but really appreciate your support and your rigor and your guidance. But to all of you, it's going to be a great day. And I'm going to start out talking about Discovery Bank, and then we're going to move into some other stuff and launch it through. We'll share the platform with Barry Hall, CEO of Discovery Bank, and Hilton Keller will do some aspects as well of the presentation. Let me start by making the point that we've kind of been on a journey. I think you all know we've been building this bank for a number of years. And to an extent, and again, I hope you see through the presentation, that it's absolutely true to our purpose, our values, our business model. And to an extent, we've kind of found a third way, I would argue. The traditional banks are strong, they're excellent, they're well run, they're not critical at all, but they're very silo-based and they're very focused on transactions that don't engage the client necessarily. On the other extreme, you see on the chart, are the new fintech banks that also have a fantastic role to play. I guess to an extent, the reason for being is almost banks don't need to exist. There's a thin, skinny app that does everything, and therefore it's an entirely different strategy. I think in our case, it is a third way. We built a bank that is based on behavior change. It's based on shared value, and I think that's very important. This is a technology-led bank, so it's mobile first, but it's omni-channel. They're call centers, they're people, they're bankers. This is about a substantial banking capability. Thirdly, it's a full retail bank, and that's important, aimed at the mass affluent and down, so our client base and more. I think we believe it can stretch all the way to different ends of the market. And then finally, and I hope you will see this, that it's a bank about personalizing, customizing, democratizing banking. And you will see that come through. Let me just give some context and just start out with our purpose and our approach in this kind of why, how, what frame. You know this well, that we built an organization on this very simple idea, make people healthier. You will see in our view this stretches completely and totally, extremely appropriately into banking, but it's kind of the how, the shared value, changing people's behavior, incentivizing change. What's good for our customers is good for us, drives our profitability, and we share that profitability through incentives, and you get this virtuous cycle. A fundamental point I would just want to point out at the start, in the middle of the screen, is the Discovery approach more and more, and I think we've done it in a very disciplined way, is this idea of taking the institutional capability, whatever it might be, life insurance, health insurance, and putting it onto the Vitality chassis and integrating it. And to an extent, you'll see that that is our thinking. So we're applying this model, I think, in a more and more disciplined way to different industries and the fundamental issues, change people's lives, and create shared value through behavior change. I think our deep conviction why the model has worked and why it continues to work and why it works more and more globally is the three trends you've heard us talk about many times. The fact that technology is an enabler, it's a transformative force. The fact that risk is more and more behavioral that our customers face. And finally, the fact that companies need to have social purpose and social responsibility core inside their business model. And so kind of the coalescing or the intersection of those three things is fundamental to our model. The interesting point is that when it comes to banking, it is interesting that these three trends in our view are even more pronounced. So technology, you will know, is super powerful in banking. The whole fintech aspects that are making every part of banking easier, more powerful, democratizing it. But I think the important and exciting issue is the social purpose issue. People don't manage their money well. They're continuously in financial difficulty. Banks don't acknowledge people that do manage their money well. And the statistics in our country are terrible. You'll notice that 5 to 10% of people are expected to retire satisfactorily. That means 90% won't. It's amazing that there are more people credit active than formally employed. 40% of people have no retirement plan whatsoever. So the ability to help people manage their money well, to build a bank of this idea, instead of making people healthier in the traditional sense, make their finances healthier, And so going on that journey has taken us down to trying to understand the nature of risk in banking, the behavioral choices that people make, and to an extent how you change it. So I would put you at the outset, as we've gone along this journey, more and more we've taken the view that our model is more and more appropriate in the context of banking. And so this concept of shared value is absolutely and totally kind of front and center for us around the idea of creating behavior change, incentivizing that change, and creating this virtuous cycle that's good for us, good for our customers, but fundamentally good for society. And so I would say to us per the video, this is the first behavioral bank globally, and we hope to make it by a long shot the most successful we can lead in this space. But to point out, it is a third way. This is a substantial bank that we are building. So let me start just making the obvious point that the architecture of this bank is like the other stuff Discovery's done. The institutional banking capability plugged onto this idea of vitality. But you will see that we've reimagined everything. This has been built from the ground up with the best technology. We've done a considerable amount of research, looking at all of our data, our behaviors, technology, every aspect we know, to build a foundation called Vitality Money that is different, you will see, that links and integrates into the core banking capability that we'll describe to you. And so this is a very sophisticated, comprehensive capability. What I would like to do is work my way through it with you, show you how it works philosophically. I'll share it with Hilton Kellner, and I'd like Barry Hall, Discovery Bank CEO, to give us kind of the credible how this thing really looks as he and the team have built this. So I'm going to make the introductions around how this all comes together. Let me start with Vitality Money at the base. I'm going to flip out to the core banking functionalities at the top. But to make the point, we're trying to get people to manage their money better and not to get into financial difficulty. It has a complete and simple analog to managing your health. There are a few decisions that drive change. And so we've been analyzing through the Discovery Card data and through, I think, some of the smartest analytics, trying to understand the analog to the 3-4-50 model we know in healthcare. And it leads you to a 5-3-80 model. It's quite remarkable that 80% of financial difficulty defaults are driven by simple behaviors that people make. The other 20 is largely not controllable. Interest rates spike, markets crash, these are kind of extraneous factors. But 80% of the difficulty people get into, or 80% of the things that people should be doing, are controlled by 5 factors. Not spending more than you earn, having protection that you need in times of crisis, whether it's short-term, long-term, medical, having some kind of savings for emergencies, not saving for retirement, and making sure your asset build-up versus your secured debt is appropriate as you get older. If you do the research, you will find those 5 categories drive 80% of the issues. And they collapse down into 3 difficulties. No matter what you do, you'll find that these are the 3 things that happen. Either debt becomes too big and unsustainable, or you get into some emergency that you can't afford, or you just can't afford retirement. So if you look at it, you're going to find those 5 behaviors lead to 3 issues that drive 80% of the defaults and difficulties. And so the ability to create behavior change is not easy, but remarkably doable. And so we've applied a huge amount of science to understand how we apply the learnings of Vitality to how people manage their money. This is really the science of what we try to do. I've really scraped the surface, but to give you a bit of a sense of it, those 5 categories, we've actually developed financial money ratios to actually measure them very carefully. So for example, when you're talking about debt, our research shows that looking at the percentage of income people spend on their unsecured debt is a very, very good barometer of what's going to happen. So if you're spending more than you earn, if you're not budgeting, ultimately you're falling into debt. That debt becomes sustainable. The repayments on that unsecured debt becomes unaffordable. So the first ratio measures exactly that. Now to each of these 5 categories, we've developed formulae that collapse into a very simple thing of giving people vitality points for doing these things. So the first example, if your repayments, your minimum repayment of your unsecured debt is not more than 5% of your salary, you get the full vitality point allocation. Between that, it's kind of interpolated in somewhat. But the critical issue is the graphs, as you see. We've done a lot of mathematical work to make sure the point allocations give us exceptionally good correlations to default. So in other words, the more points you earn, the higher your status, the less chance you will default in your finances. So simply put, I'm being technical here from a Discovery Bank perspective. On the extreme right-hand side, we're going to segment our customers into 5 statuses. You've heard this before. Blue through to bronze, silver, gold, and diamond. And those statuses mathematically give us considerable accuracy of correlating whether people will default or not. Our mathematics show that if you're a diamond status, you will not default. If you're a blue status, it's worrying. There's a risk to do in how you manage your finances. So a simple methodology you've heard all before. Here are 5 things to do. Do them. You get vitality points. You get a status. But from our side, it categorizes and segments our people into very clear categories of how they're managing their money. But the power of this thing, I think, is at the social level. For the customer, it is dead simple, right? So we suck all the data in from Astute, from Experian, from Lightstone, from all over the place. We develop personalized balance sheets, and then on the face of the mobile, the entire bank is on the face of the mobile. You'll see later, Barry will take you through it, but on the face of the mobile, those 5 categories come up. You can see the points you've earned, you can see your status. It's simple, there's nothing to do. We develop it for the customer, and it works simply. They see their status, they see how they manage their money, and it's done. And then we provide a whole lot of other things, personalized tools to set goals, videos to watch, and how to manage money, all on the face of the mobile. So while this is a complex tool behind the scenes that segments our customers, to the deposit of the customers, it's dead simple. It's done for you, it's hopefully inspirational, simple to understand, and it helps and it guides and it changes behavior. And that's a fundamental issue. So the first point to make is embedded in Vitality Money is all the learnings we have behaviorally from the Vitality world. And on the bottom left-hand side of kind of the Vitality Money chassis is this ability to measure, assess, and guide our clients. It leads to the next important issue. I'd like to introduce you to something I think is fascinating. It's been complex to get here, but it really talks to how we're trying to incentivize behavior change, and it talks to the fundamentals behind the pricing of banking. The cost of banking is interest rates. That is the price of banking, right? It's the price of your risk. So our thinking was, what if we could develop dynamic interest rates, right? Interest rate that flex up and down depending on your behavior change, right? That's the core of the idea. Now, just to give you a sense of the economics of banking, and I think you guys may know this well, but give you a sense of how banks work, is banks attract deposits, they pay a rate of interest on the savings that people deposit into them, and how they earn that interest is they on-lend it to their clients, right? But they of course lend it at a high rate of interest because they've got a whole lot of margins, the cost of liquidity, profit margin, but critically in that slide, in the red are the credit losses. So when the bank lends money out, it has to take into account what percentage of debts are going to go bad, and it has to factor that in to what they're charging. Now it's that red block there that we believe can be democratized in a way, can be broken open. It's currently opaque. You apply to the bank for a loan, they take some view at a point in time of you, and they take a view as to what rate of interest they will charge you. So you don't have control over it, it's not transparent, it's not necessarily equitable. And so our view is with Vitality Money, we can break that open. What if we simply now take that red cost and break it down by Vitality status? I hope you follow. So we know if you're a blue member, your chance of default is higher, that margin should be higher. You get down to the gold level, that should be 0, because you're essentially like a corporate. You're not going to default. We can charge you much less. Now you know that you pay different rates of interest on debt based on income levels or whatever, but I think the power of this thing is it is transparent, it's controllable, it's equitable, and critically it's egalitarian. This is not based on how rich you are, how poor you are, it's based on how you manage your money. So we're breaking down the idea of changing borrowing rates into something that's democratized, dynamic, visible, and controllable. And then on the savings side, we're doing the same thing. As you know, if you put money, first you put money into account, many times on lazy balances you get nothing. Other times you've got to get quotes and understand it keeps changing. The exciting thing about Vitality Money is it's an interesting tool. You see, we found in the data as well, we looked at I think 9 million life months of data, that people who manage their money better actually leave their money in the bank for longer, right? Now you will know that when you save money in a bank, the longer you leave it there for, if you have a fixed deposit for longer, the bank will give you a high rate of interest. And rightly so, because there's less liquidity cost, they can ride the yield curve, etc. But the beauty of Vitality Money is we know you're going to leave it longer. So we don't have to hassle you with all these bits of bureaucracy. We simply say, as your Vitality status goes up, your money status goes up, your rate of interest on savings goes up, right? So let me put it to you differently. I propose it simply this: dynamic rates of interest, right? A dynamic savings rate and a dynamic borrowing rate. Depending on your Vitality status, your money status, your rates will come down on borrowing, your rates will go up on saving. But the critical value proposition is this. On saving, we're going to charge you the market risk -1 as you change your status, minus another one. So you can go from market to -6. On the savings side, you can go from market rate to +3. Entirely controllable, entirely transparent and fair. It's based on how you manage your own money, and that's a critical issue. So the first thing to say is we built a capability that is based on all of the ideas of vitality, but really making interest rates a core price of banking dynamic and transparent. And all of it, as you can see, resides on the face of the mobile. You'll see later in the presentation, all of it is about making it simple. Every aspect of this bank can be accessed by the mobile. So, just to build the blocks for you, the first thing is to help people and guide them. The second is to make sure that the interest rates that they pay or they earn are entirely dynamic. They can go from market rate to -6 or market rate to +3 on their savings, and the entire thing is dynamic. Let me get to the third area, and I'm going to hand over to Hilton Kelman to take you through some of the detail. But we really wrecked our brains in trying to work out how do you incentivize behavior change in addition to interest rate fluctuations. And that's been, as you know, that's been at the core of the Discovery model. There's a huge amount of noise out there with banks that offer, I think, very good programs. As you know, there's all kinds of programs out there that banks offer. A lot of clutter, a lot of noise, but to an extent, as I think you'll see, these programs are loyalty programs. They incentivize people to do things that are good for the bank, not necessarily things that are good for the customer. So the entire focus of Vitality Money is trying to incentivize behavior change that is good for the customer, make them manage their money better. So dynamic discounts is really synthesizing a whole lot of our thinking for something, and I hope you will see it's powerful, gets considerable cut through, and really significant in its capability. Let me hand over to Hilton. I'll come back and just take you through more of it.